Good evening, and thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this town hall. As indicated, I am the current president of CEC5. In approximately February of 2013, our CEC was approached by the New York City Department of Education with the concept of choice. And what was posed to us was this wonderful ability to have equitable access to quality education for our parents. And initially, on the surface, it sounded like a good choice. Because in essence, what they were saying is that an incoming student would not be relegated to attend their zone school, which would be based on their home address. They would now have the ability to go to any public school within the geographical confines of District 5. Sounds good. You have to take a step back. District 5 took a step back. I am elected by the parents of my district. So what we wanted to do is ensure that any decision that the CEC made was not one based on the 12 people that were voted onto the council, so much as hearing the voices of our community at large. So with the help of community boards 9 and 10, of which our schools are located within, we hosted a town hall meeting on May 30th. And the outreach and the presence and the voices that we got from our community was bar none very important so that we can make an informed decision. Some of the things that came up at our meeting, and I want to share with you so that you just have another perspective by which to begin the thinking process to determine what works for your district. But our community members were concerned because choice is only applicable for a new incoming student in the system, kindergarten. So that means that a new parent to our community is going to be given a book that has all the programs of all the schools in your district nicely laid out. And they're going to have to now list in the order of priority the schools that they want their child to attend. These are new parents. And if anyone can remember our middle school choice process and our high school choice process, where we have students who not only did not get the 12 that they selected in the first round, they didn't get a school in the second round. And those are seasoned parents. So what are we doing collectively by allowing that type of process to someone new to our system? And then is there really a real appeal process? Because again, these parents are new. What does that look like? And if you've already been in the system, you know the bureaucracy that you have to contend with the Department of Education as it relates to making an educated, informed choice for your student does not exist. So the choice, you have to understand, I can put 12 schools on a piece of paper and say, these are the schools that I want my child to attend. But I don't get to choose what school my child ultimately goes to. So the real choice would have allowed a parent to truly decide the school that they go to. But always keep in mind, transparency is key. There is someone in an office that determines what school that your child will ultimately go to. Whereas currently, you have a safeguard. If you are going into the public school system, you're going to go into your zone school. If you decide that you want choice, you could potentially not get the school that you want and be running around in the 9th hour trying to find a school for your child. So that's one. The other issue that people need to pay very particular attention to is the funding, because funding is determined by the number of students that you serve. So if you have a school within your district that, for whatever reason, a large majority of your parents or families align themselves with, and this is the school that I want my child to go to. So now all of a sudden you're at a tipping scale that Lisa spoke very clearly about. You got a tipping scale. So now you have 1,500 kids that are now going to school A. But now school B, who can serve 2,000 students, may only have 800 because the rest of their student body went to other schools. Now, does that mean that that particular school did not is not a good school? Or does it mean that the current structures in place doesn't give it the resources and the funding and the supports that it needs to be able to provide the quality education that every school should do, whether or not you have choice? So don't be confused, because once you do this, if you do this, when you get to that tipping stone, that school that has all of those students has the additional funding support, because they're going to get money based on the number of children they serve. The problem becomes the other school now that has the 800 students and they can serve 2,000. Anybody remember underutilized space? Okay, so now you're back into the same position where you now have a lot of your schools potentially being exposed to being underutilized. And when you have underutilized space, all of a sudden you're exposing yourselves to this whole concept of co-locations. Trust me when I tell you, this is not about charter schools. This is about underutilization and choices being made for our school buildings that don't necessarily benefit our students and our communities and our families. The other piece that we talked about in District 5 that was of concern is we talked about the lack of transparency. We talked about one of the things that Councilman Jackson or Team Jackson spoke of, and that's if you allow this choice concept to be approved, the one voice that as a parent you have is voting your CEC members on board. But the only thing that the CEC has an active voice in is zoning lines. So if you allow school choice to be approved, your CEC effectively, actually you as a parent, you won't have a voice. Because when you have unzoned district lines, unzoned schools, those schools can be closed. Those schools can be turned into a different type of school. They do not have to come back before the community, the CEC, the Department of Education does not have to do that. Right now, to some degree, they do. And although we have public hearings that we think are formality, sometimes some of the schools that are being listed for closure don't get closed. But imagine at least I had a voice. At least I had an elected body that the Department of Education had to come to and present the information and hear the voices of the community. Whereas if you dezone, you don't have that anymore. And then who effectively is making the decisions for your kids, for your children, for your family? And then what becomes of the whole concept of a community? Because most of us remember that we were raised not only by our immediate families, we were raised by our community. Communities don't exist anymore. And when you move to this whole dezoning or unregulating or unzoning, the two kids who live in the same building on the same block could effectively be on different sides of the district and never know one another. Where's the relationship building in that? Where's the socialization in that? They will ultimately break down the structure of our school system that we know it. They will, in essence, break down the family structure and the community structure. All because of what? Because if anyone truly has an understanding of the Department of Education, and full disclosure, I worked for the Department of Education for 15 years before becoming a parent in the New York City public school system. I swore I wouldn't, but I just couldn't afford the tuition. Whatever is being said, there's more to it. Slow down is all I will say to you, because what we did in District 5 is we put the brakes on the process. It's not that maybe if you come back, when I say you, I mean the Department of Education, come back to us with the data that proves, not only shows, but proves that this process will improve the level of education for our students. Do not go on the word alone. Ask to see the data. Do not let them show you data from another state, another country. Don't even let them show you data from New York. You want data very specific to the geographical confines of District 6. And then once you see that, then you make your decision. But do not make them force your hand to do it on the end of your term. And then more importantly, you have a new group of people coming in July 1st. I've done it 2 years. My term is over. It was a 2-year term. And I have to tell you, it took 2 years to figure this out. Okay? So the group that you have coming in July are so new, so naive to the system. We're all parent advocates and we've been doing this a very long time, but the CEC is very different. So when you're coming on board, you're going to be led. And you're going to be led by what you hope and pray is good information. But we're naive because if we're taking our leadership role from the Department of Education, they will tell you what they want you to know so that you can make a decision they want you to make. Slow down is the best information I can tell you. CEC5, after our town hall meeting, we were advised by the Department of Education, based on the wonderful communication of our community members, that they will not be submitting a formal proposal for dezoning for District 5. But now, this is based on what my community members have asked for. But what the CEC is going to do, because I have such great faith in my system, CEC5 will be voting on a resolution against dezoning at our June 13th meeting. Although we do not have a formal proposal, we want to go on record so that we are putting in place the voice of our parents so that as our term comes to close, our CEC members that take our place understand what processes were put in place and what our community has said. So that resolution will be submitted to the City of New York, to the Department of Education, to our local politicians, so that everyone is very clear what our position is.